Good morning, Hemshech Ayin Beis, volume 3. We're on page 1443. So, in one word, what we're middle of discussing is appreciating, understanding what means liyachid yizbarach. Liyachid, to unite godliness with existence, is a mitzvah. And in the context of Ayin Beis, speaking about yichud kutchebricha v'shchinta on all levels, the unification of the divine that's beyond with the divine that's within, kutchebricha and shchina, kutchebricha kodesh umuvdal, beyond, transcendent, within shchina shechenes mislabeshes, discussed it on all the levels from Zohar, Malchus, Natzilus, all the way to before the Tzimtzum, the highest levels before the Tzimtzum. And to understand that yichud, to understand how do we unite with the highest levels of the divine when God is completely beyond everything. So that requires the contemplation and the izbonus, and ultimately also the feeling, experiencing how existence is really divine energy. Now, the higher spiritual worlds are aware of their source all the time. Atzilus, for example, is elikus. It's a structured world. It's aware of godliness. Not only aware, it's completely saturated and united. Iyu v'chayu echad, talk about chad, agdus, yichud, iyu v'chayu echad, iyu v'garmu echad. He is one with the energies, one with the containers. Even in Bria, the Malachim, as we learned, the Malachim are aware of God. They have nothing but being ambassadors of the divine. And the same thing, Gan Eden Elyon, Gan Eden Atachten. But that's not the kavanah. Their awareness of the divine is not necessarily of Atzmus, because they may not be aware of Atzmus. They're aware of the divine that they relate to. Like we spoke about Ur. Ur can reveal to you that God is the source of light. So it's much higher than the light itself, than the awareness and the expression of the divine, but it's expressing the Gilui. Where's the Ayn Oid, the infinite distance, or the infinite apartness, I should say is a better word, and the Ayn Oid, that is nothing but Atzmus. And even, like you explained on top of page 1443, where we really understand and experience to know that dimension of the Atzmus is dafkin elam hazeh, dafkin the yesh. And from that we learn, Atzilus also learns, and Oid learns. Everyone learns from that. We learn from that everything is also infinitely apart. That's briefly summing up the last 2 pages, what he's been discussing. So now we understand that the yichud is not just with lower levels of godliness, so to speak, but with the highest levels all the way to Atzmus itself. By appreciating these elements that make Atzmus unique and exclusive, namely Mitzrisim Atzmusei, that his existence that is complete from within himself, built in Mitzias Nimtza, a different type of existence altogether. Because like he explained, that Oir on its own reveals the Moir, but not the fact that Atzmus is beyond being a Moir. And even the Moir of Atzmus, like he said, is also moved to Lagamri. Because it's also part of the built-in Mitzias Nimtza of Atzmus, that even the Moir within Atzmus is also not a Moir like a sun, as he explained. And also the Savas Ha'er, the manner in which divine consciousness or divine awareness or divine expression, Gilui, how it manifests is also b'derech ein arech. Because it doesn't come b'derech mamel. It's not like, okay, once there's Atzmus, there's automatically going to be light. No, it's not b'derech achrachi chas v'shalom, but it's rotzen. And therefore it's ein arech. Ein arech tells you, the sun, you can't say the sun and the sunlight are ein arech, are infinitely distant, because the sun must give off light. So right there's a relationship. With Atzmus, that's not a must. And therefore it's ein arech. V'ima yese gili Atzmus, and even though once it is revealed, it is revealing the core. Gili Atzmus, leia Atzmus. It's not. It's only the Gilui of Atzmus. In other words, it's an expression of something, not the thing itself. And the Gilui itself is also Bein Arech. Even as it's Megala Atzmus, it's also Bein Arech, like we said, because Atzmus is not defined by light. And then he added, "Emes, Oid is also Metzias. It's not built to Metzias Nimtza. Oid is also Metzias. Dover. And Atzmus is beyond any type of Metzias, whether it's a Metzias Ruchni, a spiritual, ethereal Metzias like Oid, or Metzias Gashmi. Atzmus is beyond both of them. So just as the Gashmi is infinitely apart from Atzmus, so is Oid. That's the last piece he said here. The Im Kain, Ba'adei Al Yena, and therefore Ba'adei Al Yena, from God's perspective, meaning from Atzmus' perspective, so even though we said before that Oir on its own is only kala, like nothing, because it's not nothing, it's a spiritual state of being. Like we spoke before about Atzilus, it's spiritual, and as a matter of fact, it's revealing godliness. So in a certain way, you can't say it's nothing. Olam Haza has nothing of its own, so to speak. Oir has, because it's revealing godliness. But from God's perspective, Oid is Ayn Oid, just like the Yesh is Ayn Oid. Okay, so that adds that the Achdus from Atzmus' perspective in Oid. The only difference is, just like he said before about Elam Hazeh, if you remember, he said that even though the Yesh teaches us and lets us know about Atzmus, but today it's not revealed. At the bottom of the paragraph on page 1442, because the Yesh feels itself as an existence. L'osid, the Yesh will feel kol basar yachdav, it will feel, the goof itself will feel godliness. So he says now something similar with Oir. The fact that Oir is really Ayn Oid from God's perspective, that's God's perspective. But from the Oir's perspective, he says, the Oir doesn't feel Ayn Oid. The Oir does feel, if you were to ask it, so to speak. Obviously, the Oir doesn't speak, but I mean to say, the Oir, its entity, its very consciousness, does feel it exists. Then the Oir wouldn't doing its job. If the Oir completely was nullified and completely felt Ayn Oid, it would be in a level of lei mamish. Now we do have a dimension of that. Me'enze is the Oir hakol ba'atzmuseh. That there's Oir itself. We learned there's Oir as it's encompassed within the Etzem, like Hu Yahu Ushmei Bilvad. Shmoi as Oir, not as Shalama Atzmi. And there is the level of Efes Biltecha, not Ein Arech, Efes Biltecha. Commission is Bar Le'il, I think he's referring to close to the end of volume 2 in Ayin Beis, where he spoke about Ein Arech, all these 4 different levels, Ein Arech, Ein Zulasecha, Efes Biltecha, and Midei Melach. So this was on page, I actually was comparing it to look it up to understand it well. If you want to look it up where he spoke about this, let me tell you the page. I think it's around yeah. Is the Maimer Zeh Hayem Tchilas Masecha could be. No, I'm not tired. Yeah, page 1162. He speaks about these levels. Ein Zoloshe, Efes Bilode. Yeah. Okay. So this is a fundamental piece in the sense where bittul, where you learn different levels of bittul of Oir to the Moir that he spoke about, the pages I just referred to, 1160 in that area. There he actually spoke about 4 different types of bittul of the Oir. because all levels are relevant, because the deeper you go, the more Atzmus it is. The lower you go, the more existence it is. And the interface needs to have both, as we've spoken about. As we grow, and in these stages of us being absorbed by the divine, mutva, murgish, muskul, the same thing in these higher levels. First comes a bittul that you're like kiloi, as if you're not, till it comes to the highest level of bittul. So the interesting paradox here is that the yesh reveals to us the highest level of bittul, but the yesh itself does not have that bittul right now. The oid has that bittul now, but it's not the highest level. So you really want to have the combination. Oid teaches us how to experience bittul, because oid is bottled to the moir. Oid doesn't have any independent entity. That's why it doesn't reveal to us mitzusi matzmusei, because the oid itself absolutely and unequivocally declares there's a source. The yesh declares there's no source. I have no source, telling us that Atzmus has no source. But in the yesh, it's a helam completely. In the oid, it's begili, but it's not the highest level of etzem. So you want to have the combination of etzem and gilui. And that's where they come together, the oid and the yesh, in the most eloquent manner. So when we do our aveda, and we recognize that our so-called, I don't want to say narcissistic, but our self-contained sense that I and nothing else, and that I don't feel a source, and through aveda we come to realize that itself is coming from Atzmus. And then we work on ourselves through iskafia and ishapcha, step by step becoming more aware of the divine, more aware, from asiyah to yitzira, to bria, to atzilus, to higher, to lifnei tzimtzum, b'chol avavcha, b'chol nafshcha, b'chol meidecha, mutfa, murgish, muskel, etc. So each level, we're climbing a level of bittul where we are becoming more sublimated to the point of reaching the highest levels. But you need constantly this dance, this balance, because you're constantly uniting two entities that are very different, actually diametric opposites. Okay, that's the parentheses. Well, asid. No, I think I stopped here. That's where I stopped. Okay. So the connection to the central theme of Ayin Beis is very clear. This is all about the interface on the highest levels actually now. Probably the highest in all of Ayin Beis. Maybe the beginning of Ayin Beis also spoke very high levels, but this is clearly all the way talking about Atzmus here, mamish. Whenever you ask me about Atzmus, I say generally Atzmus, when it says Atzmus, usually talking about Etzem Oid. But here clearly he's talking about the Atzmus itself. Whenever he spells it, he's talking about Atzmus mamish. So this is one place among others. I should also mention that some of these ideas are back on volume 2, page 1145. Good to compare. A lot of the ideas here are very similar, discussed in 1145. Okay, so that's a summary, and he's gonna bring it back and tie it all back together to Shema, Echad, the 248 letters of Shema. Remember, that was where this began. The 248 letters, which also followed Hamayrik be'Echad, the elaboration of Echad, which is referring to the Yichud, Mamata Lamaila and Mamaila Lamato, that Shema teaches us, as he said on the top of page 1442. So this is all going to bring us back to the Shema, and this is what Idn, Neshamas Yisrael, reach as they are down below in this world. The Neshama comes down below with the help of Torah and the help of the leaders, Ayn Oid, and the help of the Malachim. This is what Neshamas reach. Neshamas themselves reach it all the way up to the highest levels because they're rooted in the highest levels, which is going to bring back to this whole discussion, and this brings us back to the Koyach HaRiyah, which the whole idea began with the Riyah in the context of Hamshacha Elekai Adamimcha Elekai Amelech Mamai Lamata Torah Oid. Riyah, that Torah is the light that supports and allows neshamas to see in this world. Even though neshama on its own is like Etzem Koyach HaRiyah, but that's an Etzem Nefesh. That's the Etzem Koyach HaRiyah. We're going to come back to all of that. That's somewhat of the general context, flowing backwards from where we are, back to page 1360. Where was it? 1350 rather. 1350 when he began the whole discussion of Torah, in contrast to Tefillah, But here we are talking about tefillah as well, Shema, but both mamat l'mayla and mayla l'mat. Okay. Now, because it's a very dense and complex topic, if anybody wants to ask any question, please do. It's not over yet. We have a little more to go till the end of the paragraph. And then he does conclude this section. Then we'll go back to Malachim and Neshamas. But I just don't, if anybody wants any clarification right now, please.
Rabbi, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
This idea that no thought can grasp him, that level of Atzmus, we can't use our intellectual faculty to get to that level. So in other words, if we work on the bittul, which is basically Amunah, that's how we can do it, like using the tools that we learned through our study. Is that fair?
I think what we just discussed is we're using our intellect right now to talk about it. This isn't just an Amunah experience. So the mere fact that we're learning about these levels is with our minds. Our minds have the capacity, as I mentioned many times, to take us to a place that's beyond the mind. That's the beauty of the mind. The emotions can't take you to a place beyond emotions because they are subjective in nature. It's what I like this. I enjoy it. It's subjective. It can take you to deep levels of experience, but the mind has the capacity to go into Keser, into the superconscious, and all the way to the levels we're describing. So though you may not understand Atzmus, but that itself you can understand. That's also intellectual idea. Mm-hmm. It's like to realize there's a mystique or a mystery is not purely Amunah. Now, Amunah also plays a role, obviously, but Amunah in its purest form is basically saying, I can't understand this, I just accept it. Here, there is explanations here. It's almost like we can extrapolate through intellectually that the ayin is different than the yesh, that existence has to have something that's a source that's not a part of existence. So the fact that it's beyond us doesn't make it not intellectual, not rational. It just means is the mind stretching to go beyond. I mean, when you talk about scientists like Einstein or quantum mechanics science, quantum scientists, they all extrapolated things that they don't understand, but they were able to use the mind to get to there and extrapolate through shlila, like by negating or by understanding, as I said, extrapolation. They don't see it directly, you see it indirectly through its effects or so on. Just to give an example, that intellect itself has many dimensions.
Thank you. I see what you're saying.
There's an expression called tachlis hayediyah shalei neida. The ultimate of knowing is noy neida, is not knowing. The simple interpretation of that is the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. So the ultimate knowing, like when you climb the mountain, the higher you climb, the more the horizon becomes obvious that it's completely beyond us. If you live in an anthole, you don't realize that. You suddenly go into outer space. Oh, wow. You realize it's far more expansive. You don't learn more, you learn how little we are. Okay, but then there's an explanation, Tachlis hayediyah shalei neida, that the ultimate of knowledge is knowing the unknowable. Not just knowing there is an unknowable, but knowing the unknowable. Basically perceiving the imperceptible. Or like we talk about sometimes, expressing the inexpressible. And that is ultimately, yes, Amunah plays a role, but ultimately it's a combination of Amunah and Das, where the mind touches that which is beyond the mind. As we've talked many times, that intellect, according to Kabbalah Chassidus, is really a higher reality manifesting in an existence like ours. Our minds allow us to experience something greater than ourselves. Ultimately, the mind does that more than any other faculty that we have. So really, Amunah and Das go hand in hand, bottom line. It's like the mind leads you to that door. Sometimes you need Amunah to get through that door, but then that Amunah could also become Das, and then you have higher levels of Amunah. So, okay.
I understand. Thank you.
So let's continue. We'll continue. The line begins Ba'atzmusei. It's like a little more than halfway down the page, 1443. And the line begins by Atzmus. It's after the parentheses. So we just said that now the Oid does not feel this level of Ayn Oid. Well, the Osid, in the future, when everything will join together in a fusion. So just like we said before, that the body and the Yesh will experience the Ein Arech of Ayn Oid, though it doesn't feel it now, the Oid, though it doesn't feel Ayn Oid, this will be felt in the Oid itself, that the Oid also will feel that Atzmus, the dimension that's beyond the Oid altogether. And the Oid itself will be in a state of Ayn Oid. Not just kilah, kamoiloi, but Ayn Oid. And here, these next few lines, and the lines we're reading now, are really critical in understanding what I spoke about in the last class, which I think was a very important class in the sense of driving home the point of the joining, the ultimate joining of Oir and Yesh and Bittel and Ivraim. Is it exist? Does it not exist? So now he says, Ve'efshar, Rebbe Rashav is saying, maybe, and perhaps. Zehu, this is the meaning when we say, Shala Osid Yikabel HaNefesh Ma'aguf. So we learned this earlier a number of times, that today the body cannot exist without a soul. The soul sustains the body. When we eat and drink and behave in a healthy way, we're drawing the soul's energy into the physical body. The food is becoming blood. The blood in turn nourishes and sustains the body. L'Asid Love, it says that Haneshama Nizunis min Haguf, that once the guf will be revealed within it, its divine source, which is higher than the Nefesh and the Neshama, because coming from Mitzusim Atzmus, the Yesh, not today, but then, so then it will teach us, it will sustain and feed the soul, that dimension of Ein Arech, like we learned here. Not just that the soul will know it, or will know it, but experience it. But today is the other way around for the obvious reason, because the mashpia is Oir and the makabel is the keli, or the yesh. And also the keli will become the mashpia to the Oir, because of its root, as we learned with the Rishimu, Helama Atzmi, all the way into Atzmus. So if you remember, I'm going back for a moment before we read on, 4 lines from the bottom of the 4 lines from the bottom of the paragraph on page 1442, he said, "B'yesh atzmei ein ze nirgish, you margish atzmei lemitzias, aber bemis ein b'mitzias kol." The yesh doesn't feel this atzmus dimension within it. Well, the osid yeh b'izgalus kain b'yesh k'mesher kosev v'rol kol boser yardov ki pi Hashem diber. And in the future, the yesh it'll be revealed, like it says, that all flesh will see how the word of God is in there. Will be obvious and revealed how the yesh is, the basar is Dvar Hashem. Hainu Ayin Alikia Mahava Esei. V'zeu shalaosid yeh aguf elikus. And that's what it means. Alaosid, the guf itself will be elikus. The guf is not elikus now. You learn in Tanya, the neshama is chelik elikam mal mamish. The guf is a empty container. It's created by Atzmus, but it's not the lakus in any revealed way. On the contrary, the body and the animal soul is really opposes the neshama. But within it lies Atzmisdika power, the power of Atzmus, of Mitzusim Atzmusi, like we learned, and built the Mitzias Nimtza. So the be'emes kenu gamakshav. I'm reading still from page 1442. The truth is that way now as well. But now the yesh doesn't, it's not felt in the yesh. Through all the work that we've done over the years and the refinements and the berurim and the yichudim and everything like that, it will be revealed and felt that is its mitzias. So now the Rebbe Rashab is concluding the story from the end of Oyer. So what does that do for the neshama? So he says, ve'efshar, going back now to page 1443, the line I just read, Zeu shalosh yekabel nefesh ma'guf. The nefesh will receive from the body sustenance, and he tells us to look at the mimer of the Reb Marash. I Master Kosa b'dibra maskel elatel des reish lamed zayin. Look at the mimer of elatel des tof reish lamed zayin, which would be the equivalent of 1876. Yeah, where he discusses this. And for the record, this was also discussed earlier when he talked about the kalim and the reshimu, that the neshama will be fed by the body. I'll find it later. Fine, it's not so relevant now. I was curious to see if I see it quickly. The bottom of page, the right side of the page. Oh, here we are. No, not. It was said a few times, but I'll find it later. Okay. Okay. Yeah. V'hainu, and this means continuing reading. Shaguf ye ein sof, v'nefesh shehu oir ye b'chinas habitl de Ayn Oid. Wow, this I've not seen in a mimer. I've heard it, but it was more like understood. So now he sees how everything turns upside down, based on what I said before. The guf will be lost in love like Oir ein sof, meaning that it will feel and have the bittul in a revealed way. So basically, Oir will transfer its bittul to the guf. And on the other hand, the nefesh, shu Oir nefesh, which is Oir, yibchin bittul de Ayn Oid. It will be in a state of bittul of Ayn Oid because it receives from the guf. Like I said, Oir gives the Gilui, the revealed experience, and the guf gives the essential experience of the essence of Atzmus. And each one will transfer the other to each other. That's what it means. The guf will feed the soul. The nefesh will receive from the guf. So the guf will be Eir Ein Sof. Okay. And the nefesh, Oir, will be a bitl of Ayn Oid. V'hu inyan ein dei melach. The ein dei melach. And that's the fourth thing. So now we see, he said already, Ein Areich, Ein Zulasecha, Efes Biltecha, and Ein Dei Melach. This is Ein Dei Melach. So that needs to still be developed. What is each one? Ein Areich is what we have today, that the Yesh tells us that God is infinitely apart. Ein Zulasecha is the Oir, tells us that the divine is higher, but it's not infinitely apart. Efes Biltecha is the Oir Kol Be'etzem. And Ein Dei Melach is referring to this bitl of Ayn Oid that the Oid has, and or he's talking about the guf, maybe both. Ein Dei Melach. It says, I think, Ein Dei Melach b'tchias hamesim, right? Ein arech lecha be'elam haza, ein zol secha be'elam haba, efes biltecha, and Ein Dei Melach. I have to look it up. What does the davening say? Anyone has a siddur in front of them? Let me look this up 1 second. I think it may be helpful. 1 second. Yeah. Ein arech l'cha ein arech be'elam haza, ein zlos rocha be'elam haba. Yeah, F is biltecha is Yemesa Mashiach, and ein demelach l'cha, ein arech l'cha, b'tchias hamesim. Okay, that makes total sense. So, elam haza is ein arech, tells us about the infinite apartness of the divine, of Etzem, and reveals that also in Angel Asechi said on the previous page was Eir. F is Biltechi Mesa Mashiach is the Gilui of Eir Kol Atzmus, where it is that the Eir feels that, and then Ayn Oid, when the okay, so that's like a tedes, and with Chias HaMesim, which means that the gufim will be together with the neshamas in the fullest sense of the word, is the level of this final level, that the guf will be Ein Sof and the Nefesh will be Ayn Oid. Okay, and you have to say that's higher than Efes Biltecha even. That's still the Eir HaKol Atzmus. Still Eir, because Efes Biltecha is still Eir, but it's encompassed in the Etzem, so it's Me'ain, it's a taste of not the full experience. Okay. That's the four things. That's clear as well. Any questions? Let's stop for questions now.
Why can't we say that the nefesh receives from the guf this inyan of Ayn Oid already? I mean, that's we've been saying it all along. That's what the yesh has to offer, is the notion that it alone exists, which is of course the ultimate falsity. But it speaks upon Atzmus and God, that is all that really exists. So that's something we can articulate and relate to right now. Why is it only Lasi Lavo?
Yeah, but we can't experience it now. We don't feel it. First of all, the body has to first be totally refined to be able to feed the soul that. The body, if it's just a yesh and doing its own thing, we're talking about experiencing it, not just knowing about it. And that experience, that's exactly what Lasid Love is about. Experiencing everything that we may learn about now, or even sometimes have a taste of it. But that's exactly what Lasid Love is, the revelation of all the work we did now that ultimately leads to the full experience of the divine. I mean, people die today. There's no Tchias HaMesim. The bodies die. The bodies are polluted by the Eitz Chet Eitz Adas. So until Lasid Love, the body will not be able to reveal that. Is it doing so now in some way? Yeah, every time you do a mitzvah, every time the neshama comes in this world and does its avodah, in some way is being fed by the body, just as the body is being fed by the soul. But the full-blown experience of it is only la'asid love. Also the other way around, that the guf is elikus, is la'asid love. And the same thing with the neshama receiving the level of Ayn Oid. Like he said before, that today the does not feel that. As a matter of fact, the Eir would not do its function if it felt this level of Ayn Oid. The Eir's function is to come down and help reveal that we should be able to relate to it. The Eir is basically ultimately part of Seder Shtalshlus. And that's its role. As we become more refined, and the Keli becomes more refined, the body becomes more refined, then they join together, and the full experience will be Lasid Love.
Understood. Thank you.
When it says here, the Or Ein Sof, the Nefesh, the Vatu of Or Ein Sof, I assume that's Or Ein Sof living at Tzimtzum, correct? It's not Sobek, call me after the Tzimtzum Rishon, when it says Or Ein Sof.
He doesn't qualify it, so I would assume it means the general level of Eir Ein Sof on all levels. Yeah, Eir Ein Sof in general is before the Tzimtzum. Usually don't say Eir Ein Sof after the Tzimtzum. After the Tzimtzum, you say Eir Hagvul or Eir is still limited in some way. So generally, yeah. He's basically saying the concept of Eir, that the guf will be Eir and the neshama will not be Keli, but then the guf will become like Eir, and the neshama will become like the power of the Ayn Oid that the yesh has now.
that power of Ayn Oid is higher than Or Ein Sof Nifneis, Or Ein Sof. So
but there's only one God, and they will all join together in one dance. Let's put it that way. And when they join together, this is the whole point. That guf, I elaborated, the guf on its own is not a revealing entity. Lasted love of Venigla Kved Hashem, it will be revealed. That's the point, Oir Ein Sof. That it's the Etzem will be revealed. And the Oir on its own is revealed, but it's not Etzem. So the Oir will also then have Etzem. So basically, it's not negating. The guf is still a creation from Mitzusim Atzmusi. However, once you feel that your body, your yesh, is not Mitzusim, it comes from Atzmus, that doesn't take away that it came from Atzmus in the first place. That's why the guf had that feeling. So it didn't lose its status from within Atzmus. It just now understands that it's not true Mitzusim Atzmusi of its own, that itself came from Atzmus.
But when it says Lasi Yakabel and Nefesh Miel Guf, you would think it's saying that the guf is ultimately going to be revealed as a higher level than Nefesh, where here it says the Nefesh is going to be at the level of Ayn Oid, which is higher. Even in Lasi Lavo, it would seem to be Ayn Oid is higher than Or Ein Sof, which is the level of the guf. Nefesh will still be higher.
So maybe I'm not getting through. I thought I answered that question. It's not semantics here. It's I'm not sure which I thought I answered. I don't know what to say more. Anyway, are there any other questions? So if not, we'll continue. I'll just sum up again what we just learned, so we'll then continue on into Krishma. So remember, it's all about having a relationship with Atzmus. Dira lo yizborah b'tachtenim means Atzmus is revealed in Tachtenim in a Dira. Now, Atzmus today is not revealed in this world. We don't see it. We don't experience it. We believe it. What we experience is Tachtenim. Hashem wanted Nesava that the Etzem should be revealed like a Dira, that he should live here in the Mishkan, in the Beis HaMikdash. There, the Shechina, there the divine is revealed. But in the entire world, it's not revealed. So the goal is to have the Etzem be Gilui, is the language you find. Many sichos, the Rebbe cites it often. So where's the Etzem found? In Tachtenim, not in Elyonim, not in Atzilus, not in even though they carry the power of Etzem to us, because we wouldn't know about it and we wouldn't have it within us. So, the Yesh gets it from but it's a Koyach Atzmi that's higher than On the other hand, and all Ishtalshalos and Atzilus and so on, like the Giluim, like we talked, even the Malachim and everything are revealing forces. They express, they're the consciousness of the divine. Etzem is not a state of consciousness. Etzem is beyond consciousness, beyond expression. So the beauty here is that you want to join these two together. So when a neshama comes down into a body, the neshama is carrying everything that God infused the soul with, including learning the entire Torah, including all the levels the neshama expresses from higher levels. It comes armed with Torah, as I said, and Oid, in order to illuminate the body, which doesn't have any Oid of its own, like the moon, like Malchus, even more concealed in this world. On the other hand, the guf has an unbelievable potent power of Etzem in it, but it's not revealed. So when a person davens and learns and does mitzvahs and works hard on refining and elevating and sublimating themselves to Elokus, so the guf is now receiving that type of gilui from the neshama through Torah and so on. On the other hand, the guf, its atzmistic power is suddenly becoming triggered. Not suddenly, over time. La'asad lave will be the complete fusion of all the work we did, where the guf will be elokus, like he says. So it means that now the guf, which was till now concealed atzmi, or concealed part of atzmus, will be revealed. That's what he means. The guf will be Ein Sof. And the neshama, which till now was Gilui, which was not reflecting necessarily the Etzem, will have received, because it's only revealed in it, and it will experience the Ayn Oid, the Ayn Oid of Atzmus. Even though on its own, it would not have revealed Atzmus, like we learned at length on the last page. So there you have the total joining and fusion of Dira and Tachtenim, Dira Leis Baruch and Tachtenim, Etzem Begilui. That's Begilui, that the world, this world that we see right now, we will feel and experience the divine. Mola Oretz Deus Hashem Kamaim Leyom Echasim. The whole world will be filled with divine knowledge. V'nigla Kved Hashem V'ro Kol Basar Yachdav Kepi Hashem Dibur. That will be revealed in chapter 36 in Tanya and 37 somewhat as well. Look, that's where he explains the whole picture. What means Dira B'Tachtenim? And he brings this verse and many other verses to explain the difference between the world as it is today and what will be when Mashiach comes. Mashiach and Tchis HaMesim, L'asad Love. So it'll be the revelation. There will no longer be a garment that will conceal the teacher. Ayin Be'ayin Yiro. I'm just giving you some of the verses that he brings there. So I would highly recommend looking in chapter 36 and also 37 in Tanya, and you'll see there the backdrop that this explains, obviously in far deeper and higher levels, but the idea. By Matan Torah, he says, by Matan Torah was a taste of this, but a permanent revealed Etzem is only L'asad Love. Yeah. There's also a sikh, if you really want to go deeper into that, you could look at a sikh in Kutei Sichos, volume 5, the second sikh of Vayigash, where the Rebbe, I've quoted it a number of times, where the Rebbe explains what's the purpose of Geula. If the Eibishter, if Atzmus has nachas from our Aveda now, Yafa Shah Achas B'tshuva Meisim Tevim Be'elam Haba, more than Elam Haba, the world, in this world, why do we need Geula? Why does the Eibishter need Geula? We need Geula because the human being needs to feel the reward. But if Hashem has more nachas in the Helam, why do we need the Gilui? And he explains, because Atzmus, Gilui is negei also to Atzmus. Atzmus wants Oid, Gilui, not just Helam. There's a lot on this topic, many, many places in the Sichos of the Rebbe. When you learn this, and then you learn the Sichos, you see the Sichos come alive in a whole new way, because they're based on these ideas that here are being articulated very clearly. So that's somewhat of a summation of what we learned. Now he's going to come back and explain how it is, how this all comes from Krishma, back to what he spoke about, began speaking, discussing on the bottom of page 1435. Okay.
I know this is a difficult question to answer because you're asking how does something feel before it's happened, but it seems to me that the more refined the body gets because of bittul and Torah mitzvahs and doing the growth of the birur and the growth of the kalim, that the less that one feels of oneself physically. So it's kalas and nefesh. You basically, in other words, to get to know God on God's terms, as you like to use the terms, you essentially have to nullify yourself. Okay, so then if you take that to the ultimate extreme, which is la'asi lavo, then on the one hand, yes, the body will essentially embody Atzmus because it's essentially got nothing left of the self. So in that sense, you can say the body is literally embodying Atzmus, but at the same time, there's nothing really left of the body other than the fact that it's embodying Atzmus. So in that sense, you could say the body would be able to give to the Nefesh, to something that the light itself doesn't have. On the other hand, what's left of the self to for the what's the goof really saying? The goof is just embodied Atzmus. It's not really giving. I guess it's giving in the sense it's channeling
Are
Atzmus.
you asking something or you're saying something?
Good question. I'm trying to ask you the question.
I don't know. I don't relate to what you're saying, to be honest, but I'm not sure what you want. Are you asking or you want to say something? Not sure.
Well, yeah. Well, the question is, what is
God? God is the only creator. He sustains everything.
right?
So it's the soul that sustains the body now is through godly energy. So to say the body sustains the soul through godly energy, why is that a problem?
It's not a problem. But it seems like to get there, the body has to essentially has to be nullified. I mean, that's not.
I don't see the word nullified. I don't know what you mean by nullify. You mean bittul?
Yeah. Essentially, in order to channel more elokus,
Well, if a person is, let's say, following, let's just be very blunt about it. If the human body is following its temptations and carnal desires and physical delights, yes, it's hard to imagine how that is going to feed the neshama. Is that what you're talking about? That's obvious. So the body has to what's the word I want to use? Has to remove from itself. It's animalistic and selfish side, which frankly is a result of the Mitzusi Atzmusi that created it, because God made it that way, that it should feel self-contained. If it goes in the wrong direction of self-containment, the body leads us to the worst possible things. Not only does it not feed the soul, it actually hurts the soul, as we know. So, and there needs to be cleansing, and there needs to be purification, etc. The work that we do is not to annihilate the body. The work we do is to refine the body, to eliminate the toxins of it, and just create a healthy keli that is aligned with what God wants the body for. And as the body becomes free of the toxins, then obviously it can then be a channel of the atzmistic power that it has toward the soul. And that's the point. That's what happens. After all the work we've done, we've purified it. So I call it much more of a purification and a refinement and things like that. That's the words I would use. And remember, at the end of the day, Hashem created both body and soul, and wants a dira b'tachtenim. To do a dira b'tachtenim, you have to have a soul within a body. The body is part of the tachtenim of this physical world, but it carries within it an atzmistic power that so-called is released as the neshama educates the body. I've spoken about this many times in the context of Yaakov and Esav, why Yaakov took the blessings from Esav, because Esav represents the body, and Yaakov represents the neshama. So there's a lot out there, but it's not I will say, like I said, it takes time to process and really integrate it, but these are the basic concepts. So so if you don't get it completely right now, that's perfectly fine. You keep working it, you'll, because it's to understand both sides and how they interact with each other. It's also very similar to the difference between the Meraglim and Korach in this week's chapters, the past chapters, that the Meraglim wanted to stay in the spirituality of the wilderness because they saw that earth, materialism, consumes its inhabitants. So they wanted Elokus, Ein Sof, if you wish. Korach heard that they were wrong because you have to go down into this physical world, into Wall Street, into the marketplace. So he said, okay, so what do we need Ruchnis for altogether? Everybody's holy. What do we need to have all these higher levels altogether? And that was equally a mistake, because the Yesh cannot function without the Ur. The Ur is necessary to direct and guide the Yesh. And you need the Torah, you need its leaders, you need Moshe, Aaron to be the teachers. It would be like someone saying, I'm an Etzem. What do I need a teacher for? What do I need a Rebbe for? What do I need to learn for altogether? I could just sleep all day, and my body is a Yesh Amiti, is one with the Yesh Amiti. No, because it's not your experience. That's from Atzmus's power. It has to become part of you. You have to become aware of it. So the whole avoid of a person is to refine themselves through Torah and mitzvahs, And what happens with Korach and his people? They get swallowed by the very earth that they were worshiping. So what the Maraglim said, Eretz Echelis Yishvel, a land that consumes its inhabitants, actually happened to Korach, because when you lose sight of Ruchnius, if you're not connected above, you fall below. And that's what happened. They fell below and they were swallowed by the very earth that they thought Tachtenim. So if you think Tachtenim, this was the mistake also, I don't know, the Havdil, Shapsei Tzvi, the Frankisten, Jacob Frank, and so on, where they learned that in this material world are the highest sparks. So that, you know what they have to do? Orgies. Let's indulge in this material world. Let's do every possible sin to be able to reveal the divine within the lowest of levels. Obviously, it's very clear what the mistake is. That's not how it works. The only way to reveal it is through Torah mitzvahs, not through doing whatever you want to do. So you have to be so it's a whole dance back and forth. The guf learns bittul from the neshama, and the neshama learns etzem from the guf.
It was all very helpful. So it does resonate once you reorient. Yeah.
Okay.
Rabbi, could you please, the Rebbe said that Mashiach is here. So what is it just because we're...
But there's a second half to that sentence. He said, well, we have to open our eyes.
Okay. And this is the way what we're doing right now? That's how we're doing it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
It means after thousands of years of work, we're on the threshold. It's not like we need to start from scratch. We're not at first base. We're not a startup. Let's put it that way. We've been doing this for thousands of years, and now we're at the point of last few steps to let it erupt. Okay. And I repeat again, I suggest learning it again and again and again and asking questions by all means. I'm happy to answer any questions on this topic. But it takes time because it's not, let's put it this way, not conventional thinking exactly.
Yes, totally. Thank you very much.
No, I'm saying this to everybody, to all the questions that were asked, to everybody. So let's continue. The nimtza. I'd probably make this a new paragraph. The nimtza. So what do we learn from all this? What's the conclusion? Nimtza means, what do we derive from all this? Sheyesh b'krishma, that in krishma, b'chinas halav amshacha. Remember the top of last page? He said that in krishma itself, there's not just krishma is halah and mitzvahs is amshacha, that there's halah of amshacha in krishma itself. Bottom of page 1441, top of 1442. So nimtza sheyesh b'krishma b'chinas halah of amshacha. Remember, I asked the question whether this whole discussion about Achdus Hashem is referring to only halah or only amshacha. It's clearly both. That in krishma there's halah, how we elevate from bottom up to come to perceive these levels of divine unity, and amshacha, which is being drawing down from the divine unity downward, which is really the central theme of really the last 1,000 pages, actually, of the difference between Aremim Chelekai Melech, Mamata Lamaila, Mamaila Lamata, Tefillah and Torah. But here he seems to be talking in Tefillah itself. So he says like this: the Allah b'bchinas Atzmus Ein Sof. The law of Shema is an Atzmus Ein Sof, a love v'leila midei sof. If you remember the bottom of page 1441, he spoke Shema, a love, b'chol kareinu a love, calling to him and not to his attributes, not to his Giluyim and his expression. A love. Shemoneh Esrei was already limidei sof, like he said, hadbik b'midei sof, bottom of page 1441. So that's the law of Shema. That That's the unification from the bottom up, where we contemplate and we experience and we feel the divine, that it permeates all of existence. Echad, Ches, Dalet, the 7 heavens and earth, the 4 directions, east, west, south, north, south, is all sublimating and sublimated to the Aleph. That's Lamata Lamayla. V'amshoche, he gamke mebchinas Atzmus Ein Sof. And the Amshoche of Shema is also coming from Atzmus Ein Sof. However, it's a revelation from above. Shezeh inyan, well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. Let me correct myself. Not revelation from above. The Aveda is drawing it from top down. Not that God is initiating, because both are in Shema, which means our Aveda. The question is, are we doing it from so-called, we start at the bottom and we go climb upward, or we start from the top and draw it down? It's also from Atzmus Ein Sof. Shezeh inyan, the Maimer Chazal has been referring to quite a number of times in the last pages. Kad amlichte l'maylo lamata, that when you crown or you declare God's sovereignty, you essentially declare His kingship, l'maylo lamata, above and below. Maybe that's why he says it's l'maylo lamata, because first it says l'maylo and then lamata. That's the Amshach. So that's the exist of the law of Amshach, and he doesn't specifically connect our law of Amshach to the details of what we learned, because what we learned can be understood both ways. We can understand that we do this from the bottom up, or we can understand that we do it from the top down. It depends which direction you go. In other words, when you're saying Shema, you could contemplate either way. You could start from Atzmus, that's completely beyond everything, and then Atzmus emanated Oir, and then from Oir came the lower levels, all the way to this world. Or you could start the other way, start from this world and work your way up from the Yesh, all the way back to Oir, all the way back to Atzmus. I'm just saying that because it doesn't seem like he spelled out exactly what looks like everything we said can be understood both directions. So now, V'zeh inyan, Ramach Tevin de Krishma. And this now explains the 248 letters of Krishma. Remember earlier we said these are the 248 Eivarim de Malka, divine limbs, very much part of the Etzem of the king himself, like the 248 mitzvahs. So he says like this. Shein Amshachas b'chinas shir kaima Ramach Eivarim de Malka. The 248 letters of Shema, what are they doing? There's Amshacha, they're drawing. Shir Kema means Kema means a structure. You say the Kema of something, the height or structure of something. Shir Kema means the full structure. Shir means measured, but Shir Kema means that the measured structure, the Shir Kema of what? Of the 248 Eivarim de Malka. So when you say, let's say, Shir Kema shel Haguf, would mean what is the measured structure of the body is 248 limbs. So the same thing, Lamaila, you say, Shir Kemed Ramach Eivarim, the Malka, the 248 Eivarim. They're not physical limbs, obviously. It's 248 dimensions of Eivarim, the Malka. The Kamoi, like we learned earlier when we spoke about the mitzvahs. Shebe mitzvahs tefillin, al derech mashal, nizbar le'il, on page 1441, middle of the page, or closer to the top. He said, for example, when you do a mitzvah, an example he used was tefillin. What do we learn? Sha'odam amaniach tefillin lamata. That the person who puts on tefillin below, mamshich, what does he trigger? What does he activate? He's b'chinas hamechin, the malka kadisha. So the tefillin that goes on the head activates the meichin of the king above, because whatever we do below mirrors and in turn draws from meichin, the malka kadisha. That's one of the Eivarim. A moyach, the head, the brain, the mind, is all one of the Eivarim, the 248 Eivarim. B'chinas kutshe bricho. Like he said, it draws from Meichin into, which is Bechinas Kutsha Brichu, which is the level of Zod Atzilus. Let me just see how he said it earlier. It's not so clear. It says like this. They said like it. Okay. Because there he interpreted Tefillin two ways. One is you draw from Zah into Malchus, and the same thing you draw into from Moichin into Zah, depending how you touch Kutsha Brichu. If Kutsha Brichu is Zah, for Zah to Malchus. If Kutsha Brichu is Keser, you're drawing that into okay. Here he doesn't go into the two different, it just says it all as one statement. But bottom line is that when we put on tefillin, on our moyach, on our aver below, it draws the moichin above. Yeah. Because Kutshabichin is Zodat Sil, that's the lower interpretation. Uba Adam Elyon, and that's from the Adam Elyon to the Adam Atachten, down below. And the Adam Elyon itself, it also creates a yichud. Nimsha b'b'chinas Kutshabrichu shalamayla ad reish kol dargim. So he does bring both interpretations. I correct myself. So first is when we do it, we're drawing from Malchus into Zoh into Malchus. Remember, our Maisa Tachtenim reach into Malchus. Malchus in turn opens up the channels. So then now creates a ripple effect, like a domino, a ripple effect, all the way to the highest levels of drawing from Kutshabrichu Shalamayla Ad Reish Kol Dargim, from the highest levels, even from the level of Atzmus. Or what he called Etzem, or the highest levels of Kutshabrichu. So that's the example he's using from Tefillin. Now let's go back to Shema. Same thing with mitzvahs Krishma that he called before, Klolos Kol HaMitzvahs. Krishma encompasses all the mitzvahs. So the same thing. That in Shema, it's drawn down Kutshabrichu to the highest levels. And remember, we learned the highest levels of Kutshabrichu all the way to before the Tzimtzum. Yeah. Highest level before the Tzimtzum. Yeah. Zehu. And this is the meaning that we said before, the Krishma who klolos ha-mitzvahs. That Krishma, that's why it has 248 letters corresponding to the 248, all the mitzvahs. Because it's the general mitzvahs. The Mashanasa, they call mitzvah, b'vrat, nasa, they Krishma b'chlal. Because that which is achieved through every specific mitzvah in detail, specifically, happens through Krishma in general. So it gives us a whole new take, an appreciation of Krishma, why Krishma is so central. That's one point. So Krishma does what all the mitzvahs do specifically, Krishma does in general. V'gam, additionally, Sham shochesh ha'idei mitzvahs ha'idei ha'loah de Krishma. Like we said at the bottom of 1441. Additionally, another thing, that not just that we said before, Shema has both halah and amshacha, that the halah of Krishma also is what causes the amshacha through mitzvahs. So Shema has something that all the mitzvahs have, and also it assists, basically, it is what allows and causes that the amshacha that comes from mitzvahs like tefillin or other mitzvahs in the Ramach Evarim is coming through Krishma. So Krishma has something of all the mitzvahs, and additionally to drawing it into all the mitzvahs, to empowering all the mitzvahs to draw down this energy. Because Krishma goes a love, B'leila Midesov, Krishma reaches Hashem Echad all the way to the highest levels. And now he concludes this whole section that began literally I'm going back to where it began. It looks like he's going back now. Wow, a long way. that neshamas. It says v'zehu, the neshamas Yisrael, and this is what we learned earlier at length, that the souls of Israel al yedei ha-mitzvahs, through mitzvahs, through their mitzvahs, ubederach klal ayidei aveda de krishma, and in general, like you just said, in general, through their work, their service of krishma, of reciting Shema, boim lishtaba begufa de malka. Yeah, back there he spoke at the bottom of page 1435. They come lishtaba. That's from the word shibud. Lishtaba, to attach itself, to connect. The gufa de malka, the gufa of malch, not just the king, but the body of the king, meaning his very etzem. B'chinas kutsha b'richu, that's kutsha b'richu. Shazel b'chinas mohuz v'atzmus ein sof shalamayla b'chinas Gilui. That's the level of mohuz v'atzmus ein sof that's higher than Gilui. It's not the king's expression; it's the gufa malach, like you said, evarim de melech. V'zeu b'yechelis neshamas Yisrael, and this is in the capacity and the power of the souls of Israel, mepnei shemushrashim b'chinas atzmus, because they're rooted in Atzmus. U'kemoishin is bar le'il, as was discussed earlier when we talked about neshamas and malachim, that neshamas are rooted higher than everything. I'm referring now on page 1434 and earlier as well. Al Kain, because they're rooted in Atzmus, b'yecholtam, b'aveidosam, they have the capacity with their aveda lishtaba begufa de malka, to bind themselves, to bind in the guf of melech, completely join and attach themselves to the gufa de malka b'chinas atzmus ein sof, atzmus ein sof itself. Though he doesn't say it, but it's hard to ignore that he used before the word guf, by the gufa adam. He said that is touches the etzem, and he was using gufa de malka. So it could be the guf connection, like guf nena min guf, the yesh amiti, yesh anivra connection. Doesn't say it explicitly, but it just occurred to me.
It seems to me he's hinting at the answer to the question I asked. How does the guf retain something to teach the neshama, and he's talking.
It's not about retaining. The guf is created by Atzmus, and it has Atzmisdika power, and that's what that's how the guf has. But it's not revealed.
Yeah.
That power, when it works together with the neshama, ultimately l'asad lave will be so-called sustained or transferred as well. Yeah. Okay.
Rabbi.
Okay, so we finished the paragraph, and we'll stop here, but let me stop for questions now. Yeah.
Rabbi, is the rabbi teaching that in Mashiach times, when the guf, the body begins to radiate and irradiate and feed the neshama, is that because it's becoming closer? It's evolving closer to the organs of the king. It's looking more like the organs of the king, something like that.
You could say that, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when a person does mitzvahs, like tefillin or like you're saying Shema, you are aligning yourself. Your body is aligning itself below with the divine attributes and the divine Etzem. Remember, this is even higher than attributes. The divine Etzem, yeah. The Moichin, and yeah. All the way to Kutchabrichu in the highest levels. So this explains also why he was elaborating on Kutchabrichu V'Shchinta on every level. Because ultimately we want to connect it all the way to the highest levels and draw down through all the levels. That would be accurate. And remember, mitzvahs can only be done on earth. You can't do mitzvahs really in heaven or in the higher spiritual worlds. Torah you can learn there, but not mitzvahs. Physical mitzvahs, obviously.
I think you were referring to Ramach Tevin as 248 letters, but I think you said a few times. I think it's words, not letters. I think there's like 1,000 letters. I think I'm just mentioning something there.
A teva is an us. Teva is a word, 248 words. Well, we can count it. Did you count it?
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's words.
It's words from where to where is the 248?
I counted recently. I think I started Shema, but I'm not sure. But Osiot Avasa, isn't it in Aramaic as Osios, letters of Ivasa in Aramaic? Tavian, I think, is Tavot, which is words.
No, us is a letter for sure. I keep saying letters, so maybe it is words. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Amach Tavin. Oh, I'll tell you the truth, just have to look it up, whatever it is. I mean, I stand corrected if it's I thought it meant letters, but maybe I'm wrong. So possible. We counted from Shema till where?
Counting it, but in Chabad.org it says 248 words. And in the other places the words, all words.
Okay, so it could be from Shema through Emes, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Possible. Okay, so
No
so
problem.
be it. I'm not standing on my what I said. If you know, as I said, it's not like whatever's is correct is correct. A teva, Asius teves teva. Yes, the words. Yeah, when they say teva, the Baal Shem Tov says, surround yourself with the words of Torah. So teva is translated as word. That's correct. Okay. For some reason, I thought maybe I'm wrong. That it meant the 248 letters from Shema till the end of Ahafta. I don't know if that's even right. I don't even know if it's 248.
No,
Wait, let me look it up. Let's
okay.
look it up.
The thing is the fact we have to repeat the 3 words at the end or the extra word because it was 240, 45. It's an alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. We have to repeat to make up the 248. If you actually count it, I think it was 249 or 245. 245, and you have to add 3. That's
okay.
right.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll stop here, end of the paragraph. Seem to tie this up. And they're going to go back. The next class will continue. Now comes the question the other way around. Why do you need malachim? Back to that. If neshamas can do this, what are the malachim's role? So this is a back and forth that we've got already.
That's a good question. If the Jewish souls are binding to the body of the king, so why do we need the angels to bind to the membrane?
That's what the Rebbe Rashab is going to ask in the next line. Okay.
You want to put them out of. You don't want to put them out of business, though.
No, it's he's already explained it, but he's going to elaborate more. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Rabbi,
remember, as I mentioned, we could use all the help we can get because even with all this, it doesn't mean it's so simple.
I mean, yeah.
And try it out today when you say Shema. Tell me what you get, where you reach.
I'm afraid. Rabbi, how come there's no discussion of the 365 mitzvahs lo aseh, which Chabad rabbis always taught me they originate from a higher place than the mitzvahs aseh?
Because this is hamshacha. Because he's talking about drawing it into existence. The loisas is more what you avoid doing, so you're drawing down energy, but it's not quite what he's talking about here. Here he wants to talk about permeating the structure with the divine, the structure of the guf, and so on.
Okay. Maybe in Mashiach times, those 365 will go away because there'll be no Yetzer Hara. There's no need to turn
Yeah,
away from
but then mitzvahs never go away. They just it's just a different type of hamshacha. There, it's more drawing down energy. It's not kalim. Mitzvah says is kalim, evarim. Shasa gidim are not called limbs. They're called whatever they're called. Gidim, nerves or tendons or channels.
sinews. Yeah.
Sinews.
Sinews. But it's two separate things. That Ramach is talking here, the positive mitzvahs, the positive words. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so we'll stop here at the end of this paragraph. Any other questions before I conclude this recording? Of the bottom of page 1443. Yeah. Very good.
I just want to say that last week was one of the most exciting, inspiring weeks of learning Ayin Beis with all the years with you, Rabbi. So
Thank you.
It was really such inyanim of being in the zone, transformation, Eish Ma'ayin, Be'ein Oroch. Your thing about Mechitza, I gave it over Friday night. There's a lot of really powerful structure. Very, very. I mean, we're near the summit, you know. It really feels like that. Like you always have said, it's like we're climbing Mount Everest of spirituality. Now we're getting, like you said, we're talking about Atzmus, the highest levels in the deepest way possible right now. It's so many important things. Shkoyach, thank you. It's really exciting.
Yeah, but what's going to be next? How's the committee coming with their decision about what we're going to learn next after Ayin Beis? I think we're coming towards the end now. We don't want to leave the rabbi.
Yeah, but we got to be panimis. We gotta still focus on Ayin Beis. Still got a lot more to go.
Is Yitzchok here? Is Yitzchok on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, maybe we got to convene a meeting.
I was just
Maybe
saying we
time
need a
to
committee
schedule.
we need a committee to form a committee.
Oh,
Like we spoke about, a sifa to another sifa. Why don't we do this, Yitzchok? Why don't we, on the group, who wants to be part of the committee, just volunteer, and we'll make a conference call or a Zoom. How about that?
I'll put out a post and just say that we want to invite people to join the committee to discuss two topics. Some see them for learning Ayin Beis, and a discussion also about what
the future
people might want. Yeah.
I mean,
I'll be happy to help with the CM, like arrangements or something, or
That would be
first we
wonderful.
need a brainstorm of what we want to do before we make.
Okay.
But Reb Moshe, we need what you said too. So please join the committee.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like with food, if we want to have food there or whatever.
All that. No, that would be great. We need to use all the help we can get.
We can discuss the menu right now.
The menu is Chassidus. The menu is Chassidus.
No,
I vote for the Levyasan in the
it
shore.
reminds me of the Ronald Reagan joke about the Soviet Union. You know that one, where he says that in the Soviet Union, it takes 10 years to get a car. Like you have to put an order in, and 10 years later, is delivered to you. So a guy orders a car, and then the guy said, "Okay, 10 years from now." So he says, "In the morning or in the afternoon?" So the guy says, "What difference does it make?" He says, "Because the plumber is coming in the morning." You never heard that one?
That's a good one.
One of Ronald Reagan's.
Very good. Very good.
So I'm saying we're talking about the menu. We haven't even.
Moshe, where do you live, may I ask?
I live in Pomona, New York. It's a suburb of Muncie.
Yeah,
Pomona, beautiful.
Yeah, so I can help with arrangements if we want to have the CM in Crown Heights, perhaps. I'm close enough there. I can, I don't know, help set up, bring food.
That would be wonderful.
One step at a time. Let's first get the meeting going. We'll make a to-do list. We'll first get ideas down. We'll make a to-do list. We'll divide vision. I think we can do really. I'd like to make a biggest Kiddush Hashem, obviously. Might as well celebrate Chassidus, Maybe Eliezer or Yitzchok, you'll make a presentation on Atzmus and Guf and Ur and Sof.
I was thinking of going to Rostov.
Yeah, that's also an option.
Not sure how big of an audience we'll have, but Rabbi Eliezer, to your
Let's
point
start.
about last week's learning, you deserve a lot of credit too. You asked some amazing questions on Friday. I wasn't in the class, but I listened to the whole class and I was blown away. And you had one follow up after follow up, and you felt bad, but you pushed it right. You got the rabbi speaking and explaining it so perfectly. So you get a yasher koach too.
Thank you. And your quote, your point got me so much about the being in the zone, from losing yourself to transforming yourself. I mean, I just couldn't believe that. That was one line changed my whole understanding of being in the zone, of total ultimate bittul. And that was your
Beautiful.
question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Look, I think this is a joint effort. It's all of us together. And I'll just say this, I don't want to compare myself, but when we challenged the Rebbe, as we were writing Farbrengens, I would ask everything. I mean, I always try to stay on topic because I knew to ask something that's not on topic is not appropriate. But whatever on topic I could squeeze, I did. And I can't say that, there are times I got it over my head. Trust me. Meaning, I went to areas that maybe were too sensitive. And the Rebbe sometimes gave a good, what we call a flick, a nice,
Potch, intellectual potch.
Yeah, a virtual one, not a patch. I never took it in a negative way. It was always beautiful, and I knew. Sometimes you go to a very sensitive area that no one's ever spoken about before. You can always you're treading on sacred ground. You got to be, But I still did it because I thought that was my job, was to be Moshe Nefesh, to do whatever possible to draw out from the Rebbe. Come on, you have access like that, you go for it. And sometimes the king pushes you out of his room, but at least you tried, right?
It helps to map out the boundary.
So I say the same here. If I did it, I definitely, and I am not the Rebbe, obviously, in any way or form. So if I did that, obviously you don't hesitate having chutzpah too.
We've had our flicks over the years too, from you.
But it's coming from the same place. It's not a personal thing. It's trying to be vigilant about the boundaries of the topics. But so be it. But as I said, I never told you to stop. The Rebbe would not be happy if I stopped doing it. Even we got a flick here and there. No, it's not what he wanted. The message was not, don't ask me again. It was never that. God forbid.
Kol Tov, everything is good. I appreciate the rabbi for everything.
What do you think at the pace we're going, Rabbi? We have 50 more pages? How many?
No, I think it's 35 at this point.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close, and it takes time to plan.
Yeah, but still, the days you travel, there's it's probably going to be at least 50 days. Because we don't do a page a day. Let me see. What do we have? We're 1443. It goes to 1477. Okay, 34 pages.
You probably should announce the siyum at least 30 days before when we want to have it. No?
That's why we got to start talking. Yeah.
So it probably takes 30 days of talking and
maybe
planning.
More than 50 days. I don't know. So, listen, 50 days takes us till Elul, end of Elul, before Tishrei.
It's perfect. The king is in the field then. It's perfect.
Something for Chai Elul.
Yeah.
Like that?
Oh.
Let's see, remember, we don't have to do the siyum the day we finish the page. It could be whenever it's convenient. If we finish on Erev Rosh Hashanah, we don't have to do the siyum on that day, around that time. And if need be, listen, we could always slow down the ship.
Has everybody been here? Everybody but me been here for the 11 years?
No. The only ones have been from the beginning. Tzvi, I think. Yecheskel Yafi, who's not, he listens, but I don't think he's on. I don't remember. The others, Naftali Greenwald probably pretty early on. Eliezer, I don't know, when did you
Yeah,
first start?
I think it's 7 years, something like that, 7 or 8 years, 7 years now.
Yitzchak, when did you start? Around a year, 2 years?
2.5 years.
Oh, wow. Time flies, man. 2.5 years already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you start? I think about 7 years, about 2016 or something. When did you start it, your share in your house? You
In my
started,
house.
you
Before my house,
started
I did it.
with
I
Yossi
started my house in
Gerlis?
2011 or 2012 latest. Around that centennial, when the Ayin Beis began, a little before that, I started.
Is that when you were meeting with this guy, Fred? You started the recordings?
Yeah, Fred Mendel, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. You know how that started? He's all of Shalom, unfortunately. But Fred was never bar mitzvahed. And he was already in his 60s. And he came to me, he said he was learning in my classes for many years. He said he wants to be bar mitzvahed. So I said, sure, let's come we'll meet, buy some tefillin, bar mitzvah you, great. No, I want to learn everything you did when you were bar mitzvah. I wanted to learn the mimer. So we started learning, we learned the mimer. There's a bar mitzvah mimer that bar mitzvah boys say. It's a mimer the Rebbe Marash, the Rebbe Rashad, the Frierdiker Rebbe said. Okay, so we learned the mimer, Issa b'medrash Tilim. We finished the mimer, then he wants to learn more. So we learned another mimer. Tofresh Nun Gimel from the Rebbe Rashab. There's a long mimer called Filin Demora Alma. I think we already did so-called put on the film, but we wanted to learn before we celebrate, so to speak. This took a long time. It was not a short mimer. It was like good 60 pages. And then he wanted to continue. And just then, I was thinking of starting. I was learning by Yossi Gerelik. He had asked me to give a shir every Sunday.
Right, I remember that.
Every Sunday. But then they were going much faster and I was going slower. So decided to do my own here in the house with Fred. He sat right here. I sat here. I didn't know even that it's going to be, I recorded it because I recorded everything. But if you look there, I was dressed in a sweater. It was very informal. And then after a few weeks, Yecheskel asked me if he can join. I said, yeah. And then a few others. Shlomo Tachtel also very early. Rabbi Tachtel also very early. He's in Berlin now. His son opened up a center there. Yeah, and Lang was early. A few others. Yeah.
I remember going to when you were teaching at Yossi Gerelik's. That was in 2011. That's those Sundays. Be interesting to know.
I'm here. Sorry about that. I had to just, yeah. What did you say? I'm sorry.
I said, I remember going to Yossi Gerelik's where you would learn it over there. That was 2011 when you started?
That was 2011 for sure. Then by me, I started my house around 2012. I don't know exactly. We can look it up. We can see the first video.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, we never look back.
So we could do something in like Lubavitch Yeshiva, rent the hall over there and make it, a celebration of Hasidus. Ayin Beis.
I was thinking more like Madison Square Garden.
Too small for sagas, right?
Definitely. Were you learning Samach Vav before that? I thought, or no?
I gave some classes. I'm not like this. Samach Vav I learned on my own, and I wrote a weekly. I wrote summaries. I have a running summary of the whole Samach Vav, as well as like 20 themes, central themes of Samach Vav. It's all, you can find it all at chassidussupply.com. You'll see Samach Vav, Ayin Beis. There's a few of the big discourses, the long series discourses that I've done.
I just posted the first session that was in May of 2012. So exactly. So
wow, exactly.
12 years and 1 month when it was first posted to YouTube, May 12th, 2012.
Good for you.
Yeah.
May 12th. May 12th, 2012 was the first class. Was when you start the first page?
That's when That's when it was posted to YouTube anyway.
Remember, May 2012 is exactly 100 years from May 1912 when the Hemshah began, Shavuos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I
And
remember.
that's when I recorded a piece called "A Tale of Two Titanics."
Yeah, I remember that. That was amazing.
The Titanic sank on May 12th, right?
I remember you compared it to the Titanic.
And the Titanic sank on May 12th, and the Hemshah.
Unfortunately, there is two Titanics now.
Yeah, I just spoke about it tonight. I'm speaking about the submersible, the Titan. Yeah, the Titan.
I posted a snippet in the chat. You can see where it says May 2012, and it's had 9,922 views.
Wow.
That was the first piece. Yeah.
Well, it's an honor to be in the home stretch. I feel like Dorash Vi'i, like midgets standing on the shoulders of giants, coming in the last 2.5 years. I mean, it's an earnest effort, but still, I did jump in the middle of Ayin Beis.
Zvi, when did you joined early, right? One of the earliest, right?
Yeah.
Who else was
I
there?
I joined
remember
it
Naftali?
2 or 3 weeks.
Naftali,
think it was-
Shlomo Tachtel. A
yeah.
few other people were here early. I forgot who they
In
were.
fact, I told Shlomo, I had the chus of telling him about it, and he thanks me constantly for bringing him in, just mentioning, notifying him for it. But I think it was 2015, something like that, 2014.
He also thanks me for the same thing. So I'll get
I think Tzvi was the earliest. I think so.
Anyway, it's like Shnayim She'echzim B'talis, two people holding on to a talis. Each one says Kul Shali. I get the credit. You know the story. Two neshamas are fighting. Who is Makar of the third soul?
Kulam Modim Lot Tzvi Lang.
Absolutely.
And the din is Yachleku. They divide the reward. So
I'd like to be on that committee for doing a siyum in Crown Heights. If you want to do Crown Heights, not Rostov, maybe because of the time with the war going on, I'm not sure. But I was always thinking we were going to go to Rostov for it.
I think we should do it.
What do you think?
I think we should do it in Crown Heights. I think we'll get a much better audience, and the time zone is better. And I mean, you did a trip to Rostov. It's lovely. It'll be whatever. I'll have an expedition, but this is something that we have to celebrate in the whole Hasidic world, the whole world in general. We need to make it publicly accessible and have it broadcast. And I always imagined it would be in Crown Heights. I mean, we could pick some other place just that people think it's better. I'm not going to be the one making decisions. I'm just facilitating. But in my mind, I always imagined Crown Heights. It's better for Rabbi Jacobson. It's where he lives. It's more convenient for him. Most of the students, many of the students, the original students, Tzvi and Rabbi Teichtel and you, Eliezer, live in Crown Heights. It feels like you guys are the ones that kept this going. It seems to me, for many reasons, appropriate to do it in Crown Heights. But
Okay.
that's just that's how I thought of it originally.
We can do it in Yerushalayim too. We can do it in Rostov. Rostov was invaded by that other branch that was taken over.
The Wagner group took them
The
over.
Wagner Group, yeah.
Tzvi,
So I don't know what's going on with us. We had a great time when we went to Rostov, and then we had planes and trains that took us all over Russia. We didn't. I mean, there's so many nice things depending on who can afford what and have time to go. Right. By the way, and now I'm in California. And by the way, something I saw. I last night we were making Sheva burgers, and I saw your daughter and her husband. We were at a restaurant upstairs as we were going out, and I saw them again. He actually played at the Chasana.
who's Chasana?
My granddaughter, Aryeh's.
Oh, Mazel
daughter.
Tov, Mazel Tov.
I've been away the whole time. I'm sitting in my son's shul, trying to daven and learn at the same time. I end up doing neither well. But
No, I knew there was a Chasana. I didn't realize it was that. Okay, Mazel Tov to you.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, ask your son-in-law about it. Great, it was really great. They played great, and they were wonderful. It was outdoor wedding, which is fantastic.
It was nice.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anyway, so I'm not gonna. I'll be home, God willing, July 4th. Anyway,
You should
Okay, so
continue
we'll
to
make
enjoy your
this
time
happen.
with your son.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I'll put a feeler out, and yeah, Eliezer, everybody on this, it's still in the class right now, and this little for bringing we're having, everybody is invited to be part of the committee. There's no exclusions. The more hands, the better. Everybody can put in their part.
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you, Rabbi. It was a wonderful class. This
Thank
is
you,
like
Rabbi.
Eliezer said, we're reaching the summit, and then you're taking us the cosmic tour guide par excellence, and we're all very
Thank
grateful.
you.
Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you very much.
Also beautiful
said-
Farbrengen on Gimel Thomas. I enjoyed. I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I did hear a lot of it.
Thank you as well. Thank you.
Is that posted? I didn't get to it. But is
Yeah.
that posted?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was posted on Ayin Beis.
No, it means the Farbrengen, the Gimel Thomas Farbrengen.
I know, but
What is-
you're saying, I'll find out. I don't think it was posted on Ayin Beis thread. I'll see if I can find it.
No, it's on the Chassidus Applied thread.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Can you put
Oh,
that
no,
on
I don't
Ayin
think it was
Beis?
posted on the. Oh, you're right. I don't think it was
I don't
posted
think
on
so.
the basement.
I don't think it was posted.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Can you somehow Yitzhak get it onto the Ayin Beis WhatsApp?
Yeah, lean at her. Either I'll find it or I'll check in with the rabbi and we'll get a link.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a nice
By
Good
the-
luck to everybody.
By the way, I just looked it up. Chai Elul is September 4th, which is I think Labor Day. You know, talk about a voda. But I think that's not the right day because if you really want to do it in Crown Heights to make a Kiddush Hashem for Chassidus, then the Tishrei would probably or deeper into Elul would be better depending where we're holding. But you can get a lot.
Maybe we can connect it with the Labor Day parade here by the.
That's really rich.
A million people.
That's really bechutza.
Okay, I gotta run. Take care, be
Okay,
well.
guys, I'm going to sign off as well.
Thanks,
I have to
everybody.
run as
Have a
well.
great day, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good luck to
Be well.
everybody.
Episode.